This is nothing less than a war for control of the future.
Thanks for watching another Slice of Sci-Fi video review. I'm Noah Richmond.
And I'm Daren Goldsvig.
We're talking about Ready Player One, the best-selling novel that has been in development hell as a movie, but finally made its way to the screen with Steven Spielberg, no less of a director than Steven Spielberg at the helm. And I haven't read the book, so I'm going to defer a little bit to somebody who's read the book and is a fan. Any thoughts you want to share about this one, Daren?
Well, I'm a huge Spielberg fan.
Oh, okay.
I mean, just as from a childhood on.
So you're a Ready Player One fan.
I'm a Ready Player One
and you're a Spielberg fan.
And a Spielberg fan, but
okay.
To qualify this at the start, I wasn't enthused when I heard he was directing this movie.
Okay.
Only because I just, when I read the book, I didn't feel that his direction style would have really been the right choice for this type of movie.
Okay.
But again, that's just the way I felt, you know. And of course, I wasn't upset either. I mean, it's Spielberg, so.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, I think this book, I've read it twice.
Now, could you say a little more what you mean when you say this type of movie?
Well,
I
mean, because the book itself involved him culturally, what he's contributed to the '80s so much. I mean, there were so many references to Spielberg movies. I mean, so it was almost like, you know, like why would you be directing something that was kind of phenomenal about what you've done in your career? It just felt weird. You know what I mean? It'd be like me writing my own biography and just like, I don't know. Maybe that's right.
It's sort of directing his own homage to himself.
Basically, yeah. And again, I know that Spielberg can pretty much riff on most styles. It's just, he's got so much of a polish that, you know, I was thinking maybe if it would have worked or not. But yeah, I mean, hell, we got the movie. I mean, Jesus, it's like after all this time, like you said, in developmental hell, you know. So
right. I went in cold. I knew it was a popular virtual reality-based book, and based on the little I knew, I was expecting it to be some maybe cyberpunk type thriller. I was expecting it to be somewhat heavier science fiction film, like more like, you know, something really, you know, straight. William S. Gibson maybe type of story, and when it started out, I was finding it seemed a little dreary and bleak to me. It was showing me this slightly post-apocalyptic future, these people that are completely immersing themselves in a virtual reality world, is trying to escape from the suffering and dreariness of this world that they're living in. And the lead character is somebody that immerses himself into, it's not just a sort of like a massive multiplayer virtual reality world, but also somebody who's immersing himself into 80s, like
culture.
80s culture, and kind of escaping into this fantasy of 1980s pop culture and pop trivia. And so my immediate reaction to it was, well, it's kind of depressing, and
because you're old, or because
well, no, but you know, because it's just the you know, this bleak this vision of this bleak future,
an impoverished nation of right.
And I was also thinking, okay, I might be a little more into this if I was a heavier video game player and or a heavier fan of 1980s pop culture nostalgia. So it took me a while to warm up to the film, because the other thing that I found as I was watching it is I was trying to watch this critically, and it really doesn't make sense logically. I mean, it's not a film, as I said, I went in thinking this was going to be some kind of hard science fiction thing about the evils of technology run rampant, or about, you know, the joys of immersing yourself in technology in this bleak world. But what I found is the further I got into it, the more I realized actually this film is completely throwing any common sense out the window. It's a film that if you think about it logically at all, you're completely missing what it is, which is it's just a big, dumb enjoyment of everything that this guy likes. This guy just loves 1980s pop culture. He just loves video games. I'm talking at this point, presumably the author of the novel, you know what this story is. And it's something where you turn your brain off and you go with it. And once I realized that's what was going on, that it really was just turn your brain off and enjoy this scene where Mechagodzilla fights the Gundam robot, and then the Iron Giant comes in and gets in on the action, and it just mishmash all the kind of pop culture tropes together that you can. Once I got that that's really all this was, then I did come out of it finding that I enjoyed the film.
Wow. I agree with the Ernest. It almost felt like when I read the book originally that he was finding a way as a vehicle to kind of cash in on all of his knowledge from all things,
all things 80s.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think that's why it appealed to so many people. I mean, a lot of people in our generation probably just ate that stuff up. I mean, why do you think Guardians of the Galaxy was such a huge hit? All the music was so like, hey.
Right.
And I'm not saying that was by design, but it connected with a lot of people. And I think the thing about this movie is that a lot of the things that made this movie or the story develop were more of the foundation of each character, and I think we don't get that in the movie. I think it just hits fast forward and it bypasses a lot of the the development that goes into why things happen and why they're even doing VR.
Uh-huh.
And I think there's a purpose to that in the book. And again, albeit it's probably not that deep, but it's still. I think your idea of like, is it overly top, hard to believe? Well, of course. I mean, but being a VR gamer myself, I can confirm that there are things that when you experience it, when you're in the moment, you really are like in this different level. I mean, it's almost like we're breaking the fourth wall, and you are in this. But you never once do you feel like you're not in your own reality, And so, and to really go with this movie, like you said, you almost have to be willing to forget that you're on a chair or you're walking on a tread. I mean, and then that's the hard thing. It's almost like you're tripping on an acid, in a sense. But this time it's digital acid, and that's really what this is. It's like a big digital acid trip. And I mean, I saw so many things being a gamer that I was like, because like for example, they had some things in there that were not obviously in the book. Like one character is really popular, the Battletoads or Tracer from this shooter game that's out now, and and that was kind of fun. It was like watching all these cool, iconic gaming characters like or movie like Iron Giant and Mechagodzilla and all these.
Right.
And so, when reading the book, it was fascinating to me because it was like it was a way of connecting, because Ernest would bring up things and I would think, oh my God, I totally remember that, and I think combining that with this idea of like this world that's, because anybody can identify with despair and finding a way to escape, and what's the biggest thing that people always find that technology and then this VR. I mean, who knows? Maybe one day this may be a choice. I mean, if you had the chance to drop in and drop out, I mean it kind of sounds like
Right. It's the futuristic Timothy Leary.
Timothy Leary, I mean, good Lord, maybe he was just talking about the wrong device to do it. But I had fun with it. I unfortunately I found myself throughout the movie thinking, damn it, they didn't do this, or oh man, why did they? And sequences were different, and there was a part of it I wasn't having fun with it because I felt myself getting frustrated, and
you were comparing yourself too much to the book.
Absolutely, and like particular important scenes, by the way. And for example, like they have to go through this trial of the gate at the beginning, and the way it happened in the book, there was a whole different scenario that happened. You weren't just thrust right into it like you were in the movie. There was more of a character development between Wade and this other character named Artemis, and it was more organic. And when they find out what they feel towards each other in the book, it was more of an investment. In the movie, it's just like there's no really backstory or anything.
Right.
And I don't know about you, man, but I was getting a little fatigued by all of it being green screen. And again, I understand that's what you have to do to this, but I kind of welcomed the scenes that they were shot in real world environments because I needed that to adjust. because we also it was kind of always that reminder that yes, this is supposed to be VR, and yes, there is a real world out there, and why they do this, And so I think it was nice to see that balance, and not to totally go down on the whole movie being frustration, because I still enjoyed it. I mean, for what it is, I had fun, like you said. I certainly enjoyed the book a lot more.
The book was better.
And I think anybody who read the book may come away from this movie. And again, you could say that about a lot of movies that were converted from books, but I think this one in particular, because they pulled so much stuff out, and I don't know if they did that just in the essence of being a movie. They wanted to speed things along.
Right.
Only Steven could probably tell you that.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, it didn't seem like it was I don't think it was a particularly short movie.
No, it was 2.5 hours.
It was. So.
Yeah, I mean, and there were parts where it actually did feel like long too, because it was dragging a couple scenes, But
and I do know what you're saying about. Again, one of the things I was having issues with it at first, we were talking about, the green screen and like the sensory overload.
Yeah.
I definitely was feeling that at first, like this is just too much. But again, I hit a certain point where I was able to go with it somehow. Mm-hmm. Like at a certain point, I stopped being resistant to it and just said, okay, you know what? This is actually kind of fun if I just go with it and completely stop thinking critically about, okay, how could these people have really met each other?
Yeah, and that's what you miss from the story. Like I said, they didn't. Man, I don't think you could have made this movie into I just thought there was a lot of fill in there they could have lost in essence for the story development. I mean, but it's one of these movies that we call a popcorn movie.
Yeah.
But I know Steven Spielberg is capable of doing character development. We've seen him do it time and time again. It's just maybe he just was overruled by a community of producers saying, no, we got to get people in to watch this movie. There's too much at stake.
Right.
More explosions or.
But I do have to say, for something that you turn your brain off and just go with, again, this at least was good-natured at some level. There was some feeling of fun about it as opposed to some other big-budget, some other blockbuster franchises out there that love to throw a lot of action and explosions at you that just feel like a barrage, and you don't feel like you had a good time at the end.
I think you should at least see the movie and you'll appreciate it. I mean, of course it has all the Spielberg signatures on there, the Spielberg face and all the things that he manipulates you with. But it was nicely shot. So I just it was a good average Spielberg movie. That's the best way I can say it.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's our thoughts on Ready Player One. If you go see it, just go see it with the mindset of take it for what it is and try not to compare it too much against the book if you've read the book.
Yep.
And thank you for watching Slice of SciFi.